living in Jerusalem with my family,
Mm-hmm.
my mother and father, and also with my sister and one of my brothers in Jerusalem.
How was it living in Jerusalem?
Well, it wasn't easy. I used to belong to a club. I came back one night and we had shots were fired over my head because we lived right near an Arab village.
And at that time, it was Palestine, right?
It was Palestine, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Were you scared? Like, were you
I was
always?
petrified. I came in the house. My mother was white as a sheet. She thought something happened to me. I was alone. I wasn't with my sister.
You were what? Where were you going from?
I was coming from a club that I belonged to with other people. Just a plain club, nothing special. And it kept me busy that time. And when we walked into the house, before we walked in, shots flew over my head. I
Wow,
was lucky I didn't get killed.
very lucky.
Arab.
You one of
Well,
it.
it wasn't easy because a lot of them, the older ones, my brother Harry and Maury, they they were both electricians, and they weren't home that much, except for the holidays, Passover, and other. My parents weren't that religious, but we kept the holidays.
Was it like very cluttered in the house? Like, was
Oh
it
yeah,
was it a lot of
it
people?
was a little cluttered. It was, yes.
Was it a big house, or was it just a normal sized house for 8 people?
It was a fairly big house, yeah.
Yeah.
And my father owned a dress store, and my mother and my sister Pauline, when she wasn't lazy, she helped in the store. That's another story with her. And my father got very sick, and apparently found out that to go to Palestine, he was a bit of a Zionist.
Mm-hmm.
So we packed up and we went. And I went on the ship with my mother and my father. I think my sister Hetty came before me. It's a little bit of a...
To go where? You packed a ship to go where?
To go to Israel.
Oh, to go to Israel.
Yeah.
From London.
Well, it was Palestine then.
Yeah.
From London. And as I said, we lived in Tel Aviv just for a little while, then we moved to Jerusalem. And that's where we stayed.
Did you like Jerusalem?
In those days, it wasn't bad. It was not like today. Yeah. It was nice. I went to school there.
When did you first know that you were going to Palestine?
1934. That's when we went.
1934, wow.
Yeah. Not very much. We had a store. Next door neighbor, there was a non-Jewish family who owned a florist, with flowers, and they were okay. They're a little bit anti-Semitic, and I used to play with their children. I played with them, and I went roller skating with them. And that's all. After that, I don't recall too much after that.
How old were you when you moved?
How old was I? That's a good question. I was about 15, 16, something like that, approximately. Yeah.
Wow. And were you in the King David when it was attacked?
I finally got a job with the British Army during the war in Jerusalem. And we were standing outside on a balcony. I think it was in between our lunchtime, and all of a sudden we heard an explosion. We looked out, we saw the King David going up in flames.
And you saw it?
I saw it.
But your sister was there?
My sister was at the back of the King David.
Oh, she was very lucky.
She was very lucky. My brother Nat came running down. He got scared. He worked at the post office at that time. And he thought something happened to my sister. But thank God she was okay, and so was I. And next door was a YMCA, which I learned to do my typing.
Wow. And
after that, let's see, what happened after that? Then we moved to another area, a street called David Yellen Street, Rehov David Yellen. And I went to school there and I went to work. It wasn't easy. I lived on a different street, not near the King David. I was working for the British Army at that time. That's where diagonal across was the King David, right across. And next to it, as I said, it's called the YMCA, which I learned to type there. After that, what happened after that? I worked for the British Army, yeah. And what did I do after that? No, I don't remember. Wait a minute. I had a lot of friends there. I had no problem. I had a couple of boyfriends, nothing special. They liked me and I didn't care for them. Weren't my type.
Well, you settled with the right one.
Yes, I did. After that, then we decided, all of us, we're going to go to the States. We didn't want to live there anymore. Things were bad. Oh, by the way, when I lived in David Yellen Street, the whole street was cordoned off. We didn't have any food. The British cordoned it off. We had no money, no food, nothing. It was very bad for my mother. And after that, when it was all over, we decided, my sister Pauline wanted us to come here. My sister Hetty went to the US before. She came before me. After that, I came in 1950. We decided we wanted to leave. Things were very bad for us in those days. It wasn't good. Between the Arabs and the British, it was awful. And I left Israel, well, Palestine at that time. Before the mandate, it's called the British Mandate. I left in 1947. And after that, we decided we were going to go to the States. We came here to New York. And I came over on the Queen Mary. It was great, except I was very seasick.
Yeah.
It was very choppy. It was the winter. It was March. And then we lived in Brooklyn, and I got married. We lived in Brooklyn in a place called Seacliff, just a couple of months. Then we moved to Far Rockaway. And we stayed there for at least 14 years.
How old were you?
How old was I? I got married when I was 28, so it was a little before that. I was 27 and 28.
And then when did you meet?
Married.
When did you meet Poppy?
Well, my sister Hetty knew from the same street. She knew about him and the family, and she introduced me to him, to Poppy. And we got married. He was very handsome, wasn't he?
Yeah, very
By
handsome.
the way, your father took my wedding pictures away. I don't know where they are.
He put them somewhere. Don't worry.
No big deal. And that was it. That's more or less the story. If I think of anything else, no,
It's not more or less the story. We're gonna get through to you. I have plenty of questions.
It's not easy. I'm 90 years old. I cannot remember everything.
That's why I have questions for you.
Not the whole family, no. No, I lived with my mother. My father had, I forgot to tell you, my father died a few years before I got married. And he's buried in Jerusalem, in the Mount of Olives, Har HaZeitim, and that was it. Passed away. My brother, of course, both my brothers were already in Palestine working. Harry and Morris, they were working. They were a lot older than me, all of them. And Harry got married to a Hoover, which we really loved her. She was great, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And then my brother Maury met Claire. She looked like a typical chick. She had red hair and blue eyes. A real beautiful woman. He fell in love with her and he got married. And 1953, he came over to Canada. Moved to Canada. Ralph's father.
But I thought Ralph just moved to Canada. I didn't know that he grew up in Canada.
No, my brother moved to Canada. And then I think the boys... No, wait a minute. Excuse me. Wait a minute. What's his name? Ralph and Danny were born in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And he came over with the boys. He regretted moving away from Israel. He loved Israel. As my sister Pauline kept nagging us, and my sister Hetty came before we did. We figured things weren't so easy for us in Israel.
Wasn't a land of opportunity?
Not at that time. It was very bad. But things were very bad in those days. I got almost shot at once in Jerusalem. Pretty lousy. One of the teachers, a red-headed Irish bitch, I came to go back a little bit. I went to school. I walked to school. It wasn't too far. I had to cross the road with all the buses and the trams, overhead trams, you know. By accident, I came a little bit late from school to school. The woman took a cane and she hit me. I went home very upset.
I assume you hit her back.
No, I couldn't. I was very young.
It's only fair, eye for an eye.
My father came there. He said, "If you ever touch my daughter again," he said, "you're in deep trouble." She got scared. She didn't touch me after that. But I didn't. I was so upset I could hardly learn anything. It really bothered me, the fact that she hit me.
Was your father a tough guy?
He not that tough, but he didn't like the fact that his
something happened
daughter.
to his child.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Well, was it always your dream to live in Far Rockaway when you were a little girl?
I never even thought about it, to be honest with you. It was nice in those days. It really was.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. There was maybe one or two blacks in those days. I'm not kidding. It was really nice. A lot of Jewish people lived there. And I never used to be afraid to walk. It was nice. How long was it was about approximately 5 or 6 days in the Queen Mary.
That's not bad at all.
No. But
5
it
or 6
was
days?
very...
That's it?
Wow, it was an amazing ship. Mm-hmm. If you ever go to Long Beach, California, it's docked there. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I actually sat at a table with religious people. We had kosher food there. In those days, it was a little surprise. Mm-hmm. I really did. We had kosher food. And I danced a lot because it was very pleasant. I was young. What the hell?
Crazy back then.
But I'm telling you, what an interesting life I lived. And not easy. And my poor mum got very sick and I had to take care of her. She was in a nursing home.
Would you say that was selfish of her?
Oh, not at all. Poor mum. My sister Hetty didn't live anywhere near us. She used to come once a week to help my mother. And that was it. She and I never got along too well. She wasn't easy. And Pauline, that's another story. Well, my sister Hetty lived with her, and they made a servant out of her. You have no idea what she went through with them. Between them. Oh, I have another thing to tell you. I lived with my brother Johnny out in Kent. You had to go on the railway. I lived with him and his miserable wife. Jeffrey was there, and so was Ruth. Okay? They favored Ruth over Jeffrey all the time. Mm-hmm. They didn't treat Jeffrey too nice.
Your cousin Jeffrey?
Yeah, he's not a cousin actually. Where is he? Wait a minute. If Johnny was my brother, Jeffrey was his son, right?
Oh, it's his son. So it's your
nephew.
So it's a nephew, right? Exactly.
And you lived with Johnny?
Oh, don't ask what we went through him. Don't ask. Hell on earth. He says, I don't want to subsidize you. I had to go. I went into the city of London. I had a job with a Jewish company.
Wait, you went back to London?
No. Well, I had to go on the train to London while I was living with my brother Johnny.
Where were you living with him?
He was living on the outskirts of London, a place called Kent, Kent.
So you did go back to London?
Yeah.
When?
I went back to London from my brother's house. And
This was before you met Poppy?
oh, this is way before. No, but I didn't meet Poppy in those days.
Uh-huh.
I met him here.
No, I know you met him here, but like,
Yeah, he had nothing to do with London.
what's
nothing.
going on before then?
And one day, they used to say to me, "What do you think? What do you think you're here for?" She used to make me do housework. She was a horror, my brother Johnny, the worst, miserable. And also, she treated my Prissy's mother was very sick, and they asked her to stay. She stayed with them for a while, and she hated it that she couldn't wait to go home. She was miserable.
This was Prissy's mother?
Prissy's mother. I loved her. Auntie Dora, she was the best. My mother's sister. But she was hell on earth living with my brother and his darling wife. But of course, I never said that to Ruth. I would never tell her that. Because she thinks her parents were the be-all and end-all. Wasn't. Far from it. So my sister Hetty came to the U.S. before me. Afterwards, I came.
Why does it sound like your siblings didn't marry anybody special?
Well, my brother Harry had. Hoover was wonderful.
Hoover. Well, I'm saying a Hoover, but you always hear like Johnny and
Johnny,
Pauline.
she was older than him. She couldn't wait to get a hold of him. He was very good looking,
Who,
handsome.
who, Harry?
Johnny.
No, John.
Johnny.
Smart as a whip. He was brilliant. He really was. And then what's his name? Well, Maury was with Claire. Ralph's mother. She was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So. And that's it. Nat was married to Ephrat.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away, of course. She was sick. That's Evie's mother. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Evie and Ruffy. Ay, what a family, huh? What a family. Unbelievable.
Well, you say you were neglected as a child?
Well, my mother couldn't really take care of all of us. It was very difficult for her.
Mm-hmm.
She had to help my father in the business with my darling sister Pauline.
Wait, what was their business?
Well, they had ladies' clothing, and my father was a tailor.
Schmutter business.
It was a schmutter business, yeah. They had nice clothing.
Yeah.
And things, when he got sick, things just went down the drain. He got very sick.
Mm-hmm. And they told him to move to
And that was it.
Palestine, where you became a Palestinian.
Then I became a Palestinian.
And now we hate you today.
Yeah.
So after you got married to Poppy,
So then I had Uncle Gary, and then I had Mommy.
Is that what you named him, Uncle Gary?
Your uncle.
no, but you had them after Poppy went to the war?
This is
No.
Well,
You had them after Poppy went to the war.
Oh yeah.
What
yeah.
happened? What happened
right,
in between?
right.
What happened
No,
in
what
between that?
Nothing. I went to what did I do?
While Poppy was in the war, what did he do?
What did he do?
What did you do while he was in the war?
When he was in the war? I was in Israel at the time. I was in Palestine at the time. I didn't know him till I met him, till I came over in 1950.
Oh, you met him after the war.
After the war,
Oh, okay.
definitely after.
Yeah, after.
That's it.
How did you like, when you first met Poppy,
Yeah.
being adjusted to an American family and, started hanging out with him and understanding his family and his brothers?
Yes,
Were you
brothers.
culture shocked?
I'm sorry?
Were you culture shocked?
I was a culture shock.
Yeah.
Probably did. Maybe I didn't realize it at the time. Well, one of his brothers, of course, disappeared off the face of the earth.
I was about to ask you.
Which-
Did you see?
Yeah,
did you
that's
meet his brother
Oh,
that
of course.
disappeared?
He used to come to visit me in Jerusalem. Jerusalem.
Far
In,
Rockaway.
Far Rockaway, yeah.
Rumor.
Handsome as can be.
What I heard through the
But
grapevine.
something was wrong with
What
him.
I heard through the grapevine was that
What?
that you were dating Poppy to get to Maury.
To get what? No, not at all. Not at all. But Herb was great. He still is. My Our brother-in-law, he's the best.
Great guy.
You know, oh, he's a great guy. And so is his wife, Aunt Leah. She's funny. She's always laughing.
She's crazy.
Isn't she?
She's crazy.
She's quite a character, but she's... Do you know...
She's also brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant is right.
Yeah.
And Herb was very smart. He did a science fiction, not movies.
Novels,
not
comic
novels.
books.
I forget what they call it now. He was connected with that. And he was a principal of a school. He was very smart. Very smart.
Who? Herb.
Herb, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, you said he was a principal of a school in Far Rockaway.
That's correct.
And wasn't he like a coach of a basketball team?
No, just a principal, assistant principal. No, it's a principal of a school. And when the other teachers found out that he was a widower, they all started running after him. You know, he's a very handsome, tall guy. Then he met Leah, and that was it. They clicked.
Where did you meet Leah?
I don't know how he met her. I have to ask him one day. You know, that's a good question. Maybe Mummy knows. But they had a marriage. They have a marriage made in heaven. Amazing, just amazing. must remember this. A kiss, a kiss, a sigh, a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes